as we continue to follow the funeral of police officer Brian Moore, you see here speaking New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio. Let's take a brief listen in.
He was excited about it. He knew that he was making the city safer. He knew he was making a difference in people's lives, and it energized him. Some weeks ago, Brian had to take a few weeks off. He had a brief medical leave. But because it was Brian, he kept counting the minutes until he could be back on the job. And his second day back, he made a gun collar. And that made him so proud that he had taken the gun off the streets and kept others safe. This was just days before we lost Brian. Last Saturday, Brian showed the courage and the dedication he had always shown, and he made the ultimate sacrifice while keeping our city safe. The opening lines of the prayer of St. Francis beautifully speak to Brian Moore's life. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Officer Moore dedicated his entire life to being an instrument of peace.
And there you hear New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio speaking of police officer Brian Moore, who was killed on May 4th, shot by a suspect named Demetrius Blackwell with a stolen weapon. We'll continue to keep an eye on this situation. Brian Moore being remembered today as a man who loved his job with the New York City Police Department. More to come on this.
EGS-ZSA1. Well, it sounds like a license plate, but it's actually the name of what scientists say is the most distant galaxy they've discovered to date, and that's where we begin our Sci Friday segment. Scientists at Yale and UC Santa Cruz were the first to spot this far-off galaxy. They say the light from it takes 13 billion years to reach Earth. Astronomy magazine estimates the universe to be 13.8 billion years old, which would put the galaxy right at the edge of what can be observed. From finding something to finding nothing, images released this week from the European Southern Observatory show a massive void in the Milky Way. Take a look now. That usually means when there's darkness in the sky that there's an absence of stars, but a large cluster like this actually indicates dark molecular clouds. The clouds essentially block the light from anything behind it. These dust clouds are the places in the universe where future generations of stars are likely to be born. Some lucky spectators may get to see a star-like show. The Russian Space Agency estimates re-entry of its spacecraft today. And when that happens, the debris will flare up, making it look like shooting stars. The spacecraft malfunctioned during its mission to transport supplies to the International Space Station. It's been tumbling back to Earth ever since. The falling craft is not believed to be a danger to people. Apparently, though, Periscope is a danger, at least in the eyes of the PGA. It's now banned the use of the social media app at its events. Officials claim it steals content exclusive to PGA broadcasts. The NHL has also banned the use of live streaming apps at its events.
All right, thanks, Miranda. Another big sci-tech story that's gotten a lot of coverage is those Tesla batteries and how it can reduce electricity costs. The Daily Conversation explains how it should work.
Here's how it works. When the sun is out, solar panels will power your house and charge the power wall at the same time. And when the sun goes down, this charged battery will kick in to meet most or all of your electricity needs until the sun comes back up again the next morning.
Sounds like it could work, right? Joining us to talk about this is James Anderton, Director of Content for Engineering.com. James, great to have you back for another Sci Friday.
Thanks, John.
All right, so the Powerwall has a lot of utility companies concerned. Should they be concerned?
Yes, there are a couple of concerns. One, of course, is a financial concern, is a question of their cost models. Many utilities, of course, use a time-based metering system that charges different rates depending on when you use the power. And the load shifting capability of Tesla's Powerwall means that you could, in theory, for example, save up power on your own and use that when power is expensive. and then collect it, if you will, or level it from a line source when electricity is cheap, as well as, of course, save power from your solar panels on your roof.
Because this has always been the Achilles heel with solar power, right? You can gather the electricity, but how do you store it? Now with new technology and batteries, that's becoming more possible?
It is more possible. The economics of it are still a little bit up in the air. It takes a little bit more than just the battery to store the power. Another device called an inverter is necessary to convert that DC stored power into the AC that we use out of our wall sockets. So cost-wise, it could be an 8 to 10 year payback for a typical system. Now, fortunately, the unit has a warranty of 10 years, so you're protected that way. But from an economic perspective, it'll likely be something early adopters will use more for an environmental benefit than for a financial one.
And for those who want to get off the grid as soon as they possibly can. James Anderton, thanks so much for being with us for a quick update on these power walls. Very cool stuff. More to come here on Newsmax Now. We're going to come back and keep talking about the day's events. We got one last look at some international headlines right after this.